So now that I've got this object, I am copying it, pasting it into Photoshop, making sure that it's keeping the same proportions as I initially wanted it at 100% in both axes. Cool. All right. And you can see that in the original Stranger Things logo, they've got this sort of neon effect, and it's fairly easy to get that across a couple different ways. One way that I like to do it, first, of course, is to make your background black, and I'm going to do a color overlay that will be red. So you just have this flat red overlay first. Very simple, but at least it gets your complete firm strokes on the canvas as they are, and it's already taking steps towards being kind of cool and looking like it has this neonish, glowy, very spooky effect. And as a separate object, I am copying this same layer. I'm going to turn off that color overlay, and instead I'm going to do a glow, outer glow. Again, red-ish, probably bright red. And that glow, I'm going to make it normal so you can still see it even on a black background. And the opacity is let me zoom in here so you can actually see what this looks like. It's very faint at this point, and I don't want it to be that faint. And I'm increasing the opacity and increasing the spread so that it just extends out a little bit farther. And you can see the edge is fairly firm here. That's because I've got the opacity set to pretty high, and I've got the spread very high. And so I'm gonna increase the size and lower the spread a little bit. Spread basically sharpens that glow on the outside so that it becomes more like a firm stroke. Size actually increases the size of the thing. And so I'm just going to increase the size just a little bit here to maybe like 35 pixels. It's not an exact science at this point. I'm just trying to get that glow in and see what we can do, and let's make that opacity a little bit, about 90%. 90% seems good. Okay. Cool. So I've got this very basic Photoshop glow. It's nothing special. You can do this with anything, and you've got these odd points where, when strokes converge, the glow overlaps itself and makes things much more opaque than they really ought to be. You can adjust that by reducing the spread a little bit, but even then, you're going to get these odd points of convergence. So one way to soften that, I think the more effective way to do it, is to not put a mask on that layer on its own, but actually put that layer inside a group and then put a mask on the group itself. And a slightly different effect will happen here. Instead of actually masking out the object itself and its accompanying layer effects, what you're going to do is mask out that layer group, and it creates this much more natural breakup of the glow. And it works a little bit more how you would expect it to. Because I want an underlying glow beyond just those accents. So I'm just copying and pasting that original layer that has the outer glow on it, bringing it underneath the one that's been masked out. I'm going to reduce the glow a bit more, so like to 10% or so. Increase the spread just a little bit. Keep the opacity at 100%. Hey, that's looking pretty close. Now you get the best of both worlds. You have a little bit more control and an even glow across the entire shape, but you also have these accent marks here where things are kind of peeking through a little bit more. I am going to do some more masking here. Adjust that a little bit. Adjust that a little bit. Cool. And there's one last little thing that I want to do. You see that at some letters here, there is a very bright highlight along the top of that G, along the crossbar of that H, over here on this G, and along the curve of that S. I want to bring those in too, and those are going to be very, very delicate and very, very soft. So I am going to copy paste the same glow layer that I've already been working on. I'm going to bring it to the top above the other glows, and I'm going to adjust the color of that, make it white. You can see it's a very stark white because it's 100% opacity. I'm just going to reduce that to roughly 40%. For this, I will do also a color overlay and make that white as well, so that any peaks of the original letter forms, original strokes, will not show through, so that the full glow of that white is only going to appear and not any of the underlying black shape. So now I'm just going to look at what the logo looks like, and hey, so that's where they have the highlights. I'll try to do that too. Easiest way to do this, now that you've got this shape, do the same trick that you did with the other layer group. I'm going to put this, this white glow into its own isolated group, put a mask on that group, and I'm going to reverse the mask, and here's why. All I want to do is take a black mask, use a white brush to reveal the parts that are underneath, rather than using a completely white mask and with a black brush blocking out something that I don't want. It's a little tricky to understand, but you'll see it when I see it. So if you look over here, that mask is completely black. I'm going to hit X to swap my foreground and background swatches. So now I have a white brush that I'm working with. And wherever I click is going to reveal whatever's inside that layer group. So what do we have here? So it's along this top curve of that G, along that crossbar. And it looks like they have more than just a glow accent on here. It looks like the white is actually above and on top of that normal stroke. So I'm gonna make some adjustments here in a sec. Okay, so I've moved this group above the rest of the strokes, and as you can see, those strokes are now highlighted in very, very sharp relief. I'm gonna reduce the opacity of those just a little bit so it's not so stark. You still see some red underneath. That seems about right. It's set at about 80 opacity here. And so, with that, I think we've got a pretty good idea of how they set up this logo. They probably didn't have this underlying glow set so high. Let me just turn off that layer and see how it looks. Like me personally, I think this is stronger. I don't like the underlying glow that we had. If I were to use it, I would probably reduce it even more than it actually is, from 10 point down to like 5 point and no spread at all, make it completely 100% soft. That would be more what I would do. This looks, it's a small effect, but it gets across enough what you're going for. All right, so hopefully you learned a little bit about the tricks of the trade of logo design, and you picked up a few tools that you can use in your own projects. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and support the rest of this series on Patreon.